Hello, in our next tutorial we will show you how to edit the front page of your website. Upon logging in and being greeted with your dashboard, we will use our mouse cursor to highlight the page section, and from there we will select all pages. Next, we have the option to either search for the front page in the search bar, or we can scroll through the list until we locate it. As you can see here, hovering over the page gives us additional options. We can edit, quick edit, trash, view, or edit with Elementor. Please note that we will be selecting Edit with Elementor, as this is the page builder that we are currently using. As you can see, we will let the page load fully before we continue. Now that the page is loaded, we will first use our mouse cursor to navigate across the site. By doing so, you will see certain sections are highlighted. There are three main elements to work with. We will start by editing a section. A section is indicated by a solid blue bar. As you can see here, I've hovered over the section, and the 6 dots at the top gives us the option to edit the section. By selecting this, a window on the left hand side will appear. Here we will start with the layout, where we are able to stretch the section. We can change the content width from full width to boxed, as well as on boxed we can change the width manually, but we will set that back to default. From there we can change the column gap, which is not needed as there is only one column in the section. Here we can change the height, the vertical alignment, overflow settings, and the HTML tag. Moving on to the styling section, here we can choose to edit the background of the section. As you can see, we have our normal background and the hover background. By selecting normal, we will choose our background type, and in this case we will select classic. Here it will give us the option to choose a color or an image for the background of the section. I will now choose a red color, and we can see that the changes happen live. As you can see, that red has only taken effect inside the section, as that is the section that we are busy editing. I will now set that back to default, and I will show you how to add an image as a background. We will simply select Choose Image, and a new window will appear. Here we have the option to choose an image which is already uploaded to our media library, or we can choose to upload a file from our computer. For the tutorial, I'll be selecting one of the pictures already loaded. As you can see, we have selected the image, and it is highlighted with a blue border. We will then simply select Insert Media, and we will see that the media has been inserted into the back of the section. Following this, we can change the positioning of the background image. We can place it center, and we can change the attachment options. If we were to select Scroll, the image will scroll with the page. If we were to select Fixed, the image will stay in place as we scroll through the page. We'll set that back to default, and we will choose our repeat option. At the moment, we can tell that the image is repeated by simply looking at the legs here. We will change this, and we will set it to no repeat. Now the image is not repeating, but it is too small, so we will change the size, and we can set it to auto. We can set it to cover, which covers the entire section. We can go to contain, which puts the image in the container, or we can even do a custom size, where we can choose how large to make the image. I will now set this back to default by removing the image. Next, we can add scrolling effects to the section, as well as mouse effects. Enable particles and enable parallax you do not need to worry about, as this is already set up. Same goes for the parallax settings here. Moving on, we can choose to add a background overlay. By selecting that, the window will appear, and again we have the option to add a background overlay to the normal status or to the hover status. Again, we will simply choose our background type, and we will choose whether we wish to have a color or whether we wish to have an image. I'll show you the image the same way as before. We will select the same image, insert it, and you can see it has been added with a slight see-throughness. We can change this by simply changing the slider below, increasing or decreasing the strength. We will remove that, and we will continue. Moving on to the border section, here we're able to add a border to again either the normal status or the hover status. To do this, we will select our border type, we will choose our border width, and we can choose our border color. As you can see, I've made it red. Lastly, in the border section, we can change the radius, which if you take notice to the corners, that will be rounded as we increase this number, as you can see here. Next, I will show you how the hover will work. We will select hover, choose our border type, we will choose our width, in this case I will make it very large, and we will choose our color to blue. Next, you will see once I move my cursor over that section, the border will change, as seen there. We will set that back to default by removing the borders, and we will continue. Next, we have the option to add a shape divider to either the top or the bottom of the section. To do this, we will simply choose the type, and from here it gives us additional options. We can choose the color of the shape divider, as well as change the width and the height. We can also flip the shape divider or bring it to the front if required. We'll set that back to default, and the same settings apply for the bottom. Lastly, our typography section you do not need to worry about, as this has already been set up. In the advanced section, again, you do not need to worry about this, as this has already been set up for the page. Next, now that we have covered the section, we'll move on to a column. Columns are indicated by a dotted black border as seen here. To edit the column, I will simply select the edit column, and the window on the left will appear yet again. Here we can choose the width of the column, which will not make a difference as there's only one in the section. We can choose a vertical alignment, horizontal alignment, widget spacing, and the HTML tag. Moving on to the styling section, again we can choose to add a background to this column, as well as a border. Lastly, in the advanced section, you do not need to fiddle with these, the margin and the padding, as it has already been set up for the page. Moving away from a column, we will now edit a widget. A widget will be indicated by a thin blue border. As seen there, that's a bad example, as seen there, and as seen here. We will simply select Edit, and in this case we are editing an image widget. Here, we can simply select the image to change it, and we can change the image size. Please note that we should set this to full to display the best quality image. Next, we can choose the alignment of the image, as seen here, and we can choose to add a caption, as well as a link to the image. Moving on to the style section, again we can change the width of the image. In this case is a simple slider which we can change. Oops. And we can also change the max width, meaning that it cannot go larger than this. We will set that back to default, and we will continue. Next we have our opacity, which is the transparency of the image. If we were to change the slider, you will see that the strength will change. We will set that back to default, and we will continue. Next we can add a border. By doing this, we will simply select the border type, we will choose our border width, and we will choose our color. As you can see now, my apologies, as you can see now that border is only applied to this widget, as this is the image widget that we are currently editing. We will now set that back to default, and we'll move on to our advanced section, which again you do not need to worry about, as we have already set this up for you. So to do a quick recap, there are three main elements of the page. We have our section, as seen here. We have our columns, as seen there, and there, here, and here. And we have all of our widgets, which are inside the columns. So we would simply use our mouse cursor to select the area we wish to edit, select the appropriate edit button, and we will see the window on the left appear, where we can make all our changes. Once we are happy with all the changes made, we will simply select Update at the bottom left of the site. That is how you would edit the front page of your website.